What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got our final big reveals for Battle of Chaos, the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Core set. We have Burst of Destiny coming in about a month, and then 3 to 4 months after that we will get this set. But this is the newest one for the OCG, and it has a lot of new stuff getting revealed today. Some very huge information in a way a lot of players will be hyped about. We have a whole new wave of BlueEyes support on top of the stuff we got in the Megatin, so that is huge for BlueEyes. Secondly, we have a whole new wave of DDD support. I know this archetype is beloved by a lot of people. It has really cool lore behind it, has really cool artwork behind it, but it's one of those decks that can be a little bricky time to time and struggle playing through hand traps. But we get some really nice support for them as well, and some other stuff as well. So let's just jump into it. I don't want to waste too much time. Let's start off with one of the randos. This is Monster Rebirth. This is a normal trap. It reads, if a monster or monsters were or was destroyed by battle this turn, send one Monster Reborn from your hand or deck to the graveyard. The target one monster in either graveyard, yours or your opponent. Sorry, I just woke up. Special summon it. This is treated as a special summon by Monster Reborn. Meh. I mean, it just requires stuff to be destroyed by battle, so I'm going to say it's a little bit too conditional, and you have to have Monster Reborn. If you happen to draw it, you might as well just hold the Monster Reborn until your turn, right? So I don't think it's a very good card, to be honest. So moving on. Next up, we have a new Flundereeze card confirmed for the next set. Pretty cool. It's a quick play spell. Interesting. And it's called Flundereeze and the Journey Preparations. Look at them. They're all standing around a bag and they're putting their little utensils in. I love it. Okay. You can only activate one card this card's name per turn. The only effect reads, banish a winged beast monster from your hand or face-up field to add a Flundereeze monster or field spell from your deck to your hand. Then gain 500 life points. Woo-wee. Okay, so pretty good stuff. I think first and foremost, it's really good to consider the fact that this now is a search card for Robina. And that's the biggest deal, right? The two most important cards in the deck are Robina and the field spell, I feel. Because Robina's one card combo and your best starter, and your field spell is your best chance / ability to play through interaction and still be able to get to end board. So I think this is really good. I get it. You have to open a winged beast with it, but banishing a winged beast from your hand is actually no big deal, at all. So you can, because all of the little ones have that same effect where if you normal summon a winged beast, they'll add themselves from banish back to hand. So, this plus any winged beast at least just gets you Robina. And a lot of those monsters a lot of those ones that are getting banished are going to add themselves back to hand anyway. So I really like this card. I think this is actually a really nice consistency piece that they definitely were lacking before. The deck definitely feels like Robina or bust at this moment in time. And this card will definitely help with getting a hold of Robina. So I like this a lot. It's really good. Excuse me. All right. Next up here, let's move into some DD cards. I know a lot of people are pumped for this. All right, let's start out with DD Griffin, a level 4 Dark Fiend pendulum monster, 12/12 for the stats. Scale is 1, so nice low scale, and its pendulum effect reads as follows. You can only use this effect once per turn. You can target one fiend monster you control, any fiend. It gains 500 attack for each dark contract spell and trap with different names you control and in your graveyard until the end of this turn, then destroy this card. Okay, so it can actually be a decent, I don't want to say battle trap because it doesn't happen. It's not a quick effect that happens during battle or anything. But I mean, even just as a pump up, you just say, boom, that guy, he's going to be 15 to 2,000 attack points more because the deck churns through dark contract spells pretty dang quickly. So that's not half bad. All right, next effect, you can only use his first, second, and third effects of this card once per turn each. If you control a DDE monster, you can special summon this card from the hand in defense position. Cool. That's already pretty decent. Just nice extender there. If this card is pendulum summoned, you can discard a DD or Dark Contract card to draw 1 card. Also gives you some hand fixing / cycling. If you have something useless in the hand, which we know DDs can end up with, you just kind of cycle it out for something else. Very cool. And the third effect, if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can add 1 DD card from your deck to the hand except for Griffin. Wow, that just searches any DD card. This card's not that bad. I mean, like, the pendulum effect is meh. But I think as, like, one of your, you know, in archetype cards, if you can pendulum summon it, you get to cycle a card. If you can bring it back from grave, you can search any card in your archetype. And the first effect's not bad either as, like, an extender, because sometimes the deck just tries to get to, you know, a link to... I mean, I don't know exactly how the deck wants to play, ideally, but this does seem like a potential extender that could help you get to something after you've been interrupted, so we will take that as well. Nice. Next up here, we have DDD Amnesty King Doom Machina. He's a rank 10 Dark Fiend Exceed Pendulum effect monster with 3,000 attack, 3,000 defense. He's a scale 10, and this is his pendulum effect. You can only activate, use this card's pendulum effect once per turn. If you have a card in your other pendulum zone, you can target a pendulum monster you control or in your graveyard. Special summon the card in your other pendulum zone, and if you do, place the target in your pendulum zone. So I guess you're summoning the other scale, and then you're replacing the scale you summoned with the pendulum monster you targeted that's that you controlled or was in your graveyard. Okay, that could actually be pretty good, depending on the play. I mean, I don't know. Some of their main deck monsters are actually decent, so if you had to scale it, you'd be able to like plop it out. But also keep in mind, this card isn't going to you don't just activate this card and scale. You have to like summon it first, and then it can end up in scale later on. That's usually how these work. Anyway, his materials are 2 level 10 Fiend monsters. Okay, you can also exceed summon this card by using a DDD monster you control as material. Transfer its materials to this card. That is so clean. That is so important. So I believe the extra deck monsters in the archetype are DDDs, whereas the main deck monsters tend to be DD, which is fine because it might be a little bit too busted if we could just plop a 3k beater on any DD monster. So all you have to do is get to any of your extra deck DDDs and you can plop this card on as material. Very cool. You can only control 1 DDD Amnesty King Doom Machina in the monster zone. First or second effect, once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster card's effect on the field. Quick effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card or destroy 1 Dark Contract you control, and if you do, attach that opponent's card to this card as material. Okay, so one interesting things to note here, this card does not negate. It sets itself up, and the beginning of the effect sounds like it's going to negate. It does not negate, it just attaches the card that's activated. So it reminds you of just one of those effects where if your opponent activates something, you destroy that card or something, banish that monster. I know the like the Tenyi Synchro works kind of like that. So it kind of feels like that, but it's still a decent interruption. And also one other thing on here is this is not once per turn. It's just once per chain. So if you have multiple Dark Contracts on the field or have enough materials on this card, you could theoretically trigger this card 3, maybe even max 4 times in a turn. And that's when this card gets crazy, especially since it's attaching the materials to itself. So if you do it twice, you'll then have 2 materials loaded up again to be able to use the effect again. So kind of cool. I think this is pretty good interruption, especially for how easy this card is to plop down, just using any DDD monster, of course. And the third effect, once per turn during your standby phase, you can place this card in the pendulum zone. So that's how you get it in the pendulum zone, so that you can try and use that first effect there. Could come up, I guess. I don't know fully how if it'll be worth. It might just be better to keep him on the field. All right, then we move to a spell. This is Patented Dark Contract Documents. This is a field spell. You can only use the second effect of this card's name per turn. The first effect reads, if your opponent special summons a monster or monsters of the same type, Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, Link, as a DDD monster you control, you can inflict 1,000 damage to them. Also, They cannot special summon monsters of the same type as those summoned monsters for the rest of this turn while this card is face up on the field. The second half reads, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a DD monster from your graveyard or face up extra deck to your hand. I think this card's actually pretty good. It's an interesting little floodgate, but this deck loves to end on like different things. I mean, like you could easily, not, I don't want to say easily, but like I think there are combos where you end on like a Link, a Fusion, a Synchro, and then Exceed, and you just pass. At least I know the Synchro's really good. I know there are Fusions that are pretty good. And now we have a new Exceed that's pretty good that plops on the field pretty easily. So if your opponent is playing any of those types, this card is actually pretty good. It's going to give them a little burn, but it's also going to, most decks have to stick to that type. So, I mean, you think about Prank Kids, right? If they summon a Fusion, or I guess a Meow Meow first, you activate this, and now they can't make Doodle Doo. Or any of their other links. I guess Doodle's the main one they're going to be making there, but they cannot make a link for the rest of the turn, and that can actually be really brutal. So I think this card's pretty good, and I like that it has that second effect too. So even if you're not in a matchup where this card's going to like just win you the duel, it's like the deck has a way to work around it. You do just send it yourself and get a DDD recursion and like set up for next turn. It's pretty good. Then we have the last card here. We have DDD Head Hunt. This is a normal trap. You can only activate one card with its name per turn. If you control a DDD monster, target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until the end phase of the next turn, but its effects are negated. It cannot declare attack. Also, if it was special summoned from the extra deck, it is treated as a DDD monster. I think this card's pretty sweet. This is like, feels like a pretty powerful like one of search card in the deck, or searchable card in the deck, because you just want to steal your opponent's monster, and then on the next turn, because if it was from the extra deck and it counts as a DDD, you just want to overlay it for this guy. This guy just takes any DDD, boom, another 3k beater. You have to apply a ton of pressure to your opponent there, and you're probably OTKing at that point. It's a good interruption. I mean, it's in Archetype Crackdown, which is insane. And I also love that you take control of it until the end phase of the next turn. That is so huge, because it could have said take control of it till the end of this turn and your opponent just gets it back. But because it doesn't, it means you can just immediately plop that guy on top of it anyway. Really, really good. Now let's move to some BlueEyes support. This video is going to be long. I'm sorry, guys, but I want to be thorough here. This is BlueEyes Jet Dragon. Hold on. The artwork on here is actually kind of cool looking. So this actually just looks like the artwork from the movie when Kaiba's like flying around in the BlueEyes jet. It's pretty cool. This is a level 8 light dragon effect monster, 3,000 attack, 0 defense. You can only use the first and third effects once per turn each. You must have BlueEyes White Dragon on your field or in your graveyard to activate these effects. Okay. If a card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, or if it was there when they were destroyed, or hand, even if not. Secondly, other cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And thirdly, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Not bad, not horrible. I would say that like this deck isn't inherently seem like one of those decks where we're destroying our own stuff consistently and easily. So it's like we're not, like, that's not how our engine works. Like, you know, this reminds me of the Unchained boss monster, right? But Unchained consistently wants to pop its own stuff because everything in the deck floats. This deck doesn't necessarily do that. So that Summoning Clause, while I do think it's fairly easy, it's a little bit awkward, I think, because like you might be forced to like wait for your opponent to do something destruction based to do it. But I do like that it's any card on the field, and like just over the course of a duel, something's going to get destroyed, right? So I do think it's fairly easy. It just might not be as like fluid as you want. Like you may not be able to summon him, you know, right away or when the ideal moment, because you just don't have a way to like destroy something in that moment in time. So just keep that in mind. But I think the second effect is nice, protects literally all cards, including itself, from card effect destruction. That's actually really solid. And the third effect, at the start of the damage step, if it battles, just bounce a card. It's any card. You can bounce it back row if you're worried about it and like set it back a couple turns. You can obviously bounce monsters. That's going to be the main way to use this. This card's strong. This card's definitely strong. So I just think that first summoning effect is like a little bit awkward, and also you have to have Blue Eyes, regular Blue Eyes, like on field or in grave to use any of these effects. So you do need the slightest bit of setup as well. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good card. Next up here we have the Tyrant of D. Love the artwork. He looks dope. I mean, Lord of D has always looked dope. And his name is hilariously amazing. Level 4 Dark Spellcaster, of course, 12, 11 for the stats. First 2 effects are hard once per turn. The first one reads, you can send 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from the hand. Okay, jumps out of the hand while getting a Blue Eyes engraved. That's really good with the new trap card that's essentially, like the equivalent of like the Dark Magician trap. Eternal Soul, but like for Blue Eyes, so that's really good. Getting set up for that, getting a name engraved for cards like this guy to just be live, very good. Secondly, you can discard a Blue Eyes White Dragon or one card that specifically lists it in its text to target a Blue Eyes in your graveyard, Blue Eyes monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. I do like this as any Blue Eyes monster. Sometimes just summoning regular Blue Eyes is not enough, so I like that this adds a little bit of versatility there and getting back other stuff, but pretty nice. And the third effect, if you control a Blue Eyes monster, you choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks. Interesting. So I don't know exactly like the full payoff of this card, to be honest. But it doesn't seem bad, right? Like jumps out of the hand pretty easily while getting a Blue Eyes in grave. And it can revive any Blue Eyes monster from grave. I don't know. Like I think it's not too shabby. We'll see. Next up, we have a new fusion monster. This is Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. It's a level 8 light dragon fusion, 3,400 attack, 2,900 defense. It requires specifically a Blue Eyes White Dragon and any dragon monster after that. It must first be special summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing a Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a fusion monster. What? What is going on here? Anyway, this card is unaffected by trap effects. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls each, and once per turn. If this card battles at the end of the damage step, you can target one trap in your graveyard and set it to your spell and trap zone. So this summoning clause is really interesting because I don't know off the top of my head how you're equipping a Blue Eyes White Dragon with a fusion monster. But hey, it's doable. It makes this card could potentially slightly easier to summon. This card like shits on trap decks if they don't have any monster or spell quick removal for it. There, it's 3,400 attack, which you gotta love. It can attack all monsters, so some UCT, OTK potential there. And when it battles, you just set a trap back from your grave. I mean, I don't know how quickly Blue Eyes are putting traps in grave, but if there's anything, even just as simple as an impermanence, resetting that is actually pretty strong for free. So pretty cool card. Interesting. Next up, we have a fusion card called Ultimate Fusion. You can only activate it once per turn. During the main phase, you can fusion summon one fusion monster that lists Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon as material by shuffling the materials listed on it from your hand, field, or grave into the deck, including at least one Blue Eyes White Dragon or a Blue Eyes Ultimate. Then you can destroy face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Blue Eyes White Dragon and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon used as material from the field. Ooh, okay. So, whoops, 10:30. So this card is like crazy. Not only does it give you the ability to get to some of those Blue Eyes fusions much easier via using like the graveyard instead of having to use like hand and field material, that definitely makes fusion summoning a little bit more resource efficient. But it's also a quick play. So you could literally do this on the opponent's turn. If you used a Blue Eyes or a Blue Eyes Ultimate from the field, you just get to like pop multiple cards and it doesn't target either. Whoo, this card's really strong. I have to go and look. I don't know off the top of my head how good some of the Blue Eyes fusions are. I think there are a couple that are okay, but man, this card could be crazy. And it has Blue Eyes listed in the text, so it's going to be searchable via a couple cards. Very interesting, very interesting. And the last card here is Apparition with the Eyes of Blue. It's a continuous spell you can only activate once per turn. When you activated this card, you can also reveal a Blue Eyes White Dragon in your hand. If you did, special summon one monster from your hand. Okay. Once per turn, you can target a face-up monster you control, return it to the hand, then you can apply one of these effects based on its original name. If it was Blue Eyes White Dragon, you can special summon any monster from the hand. If it was any other monster, special summon a Blue Eyes monster from the hand. Okay, I mean, like, I guess it just helps get stuff out of the hand, but this card doesn't seem all too good, all things considered. This one definitely seems like the weak one of the bunch. But hey, I think it's searchable because it has Blue Eyes in the text, so okay. But yeah, this card seems crazy. This card seems interesting with the summoning condition. It has some cool effects, but it isn't immune to everything, so just keep that in mind. This guy's interesting, and this card seems pretty good as well. Some pretty good Blue Eye support on top of the other card we got. All right, and then we have one more card here. I love the artwork on this card. This card looks crazy. It looks like an Amorphage-like card, but I don't believe it is. Anyway, this is Guardian Chimera. This is a level 9 Dark Beast fusion effect monster. 33 for the stats. Its materials are any 3 monsters with different names, but, you know, hold up with the super poly stuff. It must first be special summoned or fusion summoned using only monsters in your hand and field as material. Minimum 1 from each. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned by a spell effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters used as material from the hand. And if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of monsters used as material from the field. Secondly, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects while you have polymerization in your graveyard. Really, really interesting. I think this card's awesome. I always wondered about something like this. I was like, could we get a generic, like a really generic fusion target if it couldn't be used by Super Poly and it gave you like legit payoff? I like this. I mean, I wish this just said if this card was fusion summoned. That way you could use weird stuff, like weird monster effects that allow you to fusion summon, as well as stuff like Necrofusion. No, Necrofusion needs to use your graveyard, I think, so that doesn't really work fully. But still, I believe there are a couple cases of quick play fusions that if you could fuse this on your opponent's turn, you draw 1 to 2 cards, and then you pop 1 to 2 cards, non-targeting. This card's pretty strong. I mean, even if you summon it on your turn, it's actually pretty good. Now, if you have to do it with polymerization, it becomes a little bit worse, but there are some decks that do like naturally get you polymerization just via the way it works. So, you know, getting that set up in grave is nice. Making this guy a 3,300 untargetable monster is pretty dang good. Essentially, Avermax at that point. I think this card is really cool. I like this idea because there are some decks that like do some generic polymerization, have some generic fusion spells, and don't have great boss monsters or like would like another option for like that stuff. And this card's pretty good. It is a little bit resource intensive, but if it's a fusion deck already, it might be the kind of deck that gets you resources back when its cards are even used as fusion material. So you'd be able to add, you know, make up some of those resources. I think about like Fluffles, right? Like search polymerization as part of their combos. A lot of them get you a resource when they're used as like fusion material. I don't know if it's specifically when they're used as like Fluffle or Frightful material, but still really, really cool. So that is it for us today, guys. This is most of the stuff. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 9, 10, 11, and 12 more cards revealed here. I believe that leaves us with like 13 more cards left to be revealed from Battle of Chaos. I'm very excited to see what they are. I'm sure there'll be some stinkers, some filler cards, but I'm sure there'll also be some really cool cards as well. So Blue Eyes and Dark Magician in this set. A lot of people are going to be after this one, I can guarantee you that. But let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on all the new cards here. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you have not yet and you want to see more stuff like this in the future. And I'll see you in the next one, man. Peace.